They never told me someone had vanished from apartment 6B before I moved in. The building was old and tired, its brickwork stained and cracked, with faded paint peeling at the edges of the doors and windows. The sixth-floor hallway smelled of mildew and dust. Flickering fluorescent lights cast long shadows that danced when no one was watching. Apartment 6B was at the very end, small and oddly cheap for the neighborhood. I was desperate for a fresh start, so I didn't ask questions. When I first stepped inside, the air was cold and heavy. The place felt strangely empty, as if someone had left in a hurry but forgotten to take their presence with them. That night, taped to my door was a photograph. A young woman with tangled dark hair and a crooked smile stared back at me. On the back, in faded blue ink, were the words, "Have you seen me? Apartment 6B. Curious, I asked the building manager the next morning. He avoided my gaze and muttered, "She went missing years ago, lived here, right where you are now." He quickly shut the conversation down. I laughed it off, telling myself old buildings carry ghost stories to scare new tenants. But then, the strange things began. At first, small things. My keys vanished only to reappear on the windowsill. The bathroom faucet dripped endlessly despite my tightening it each night. At times, I heard soft, dragging sounds from inside the walls, like fingernails scratching behind drywall. One night, I woke at exactly 3:17 a.m. The cold air bit into my skin. My window was wide open. I lived 6 floors up. I had locked it before bed. Outside on the balcony, muddy footprints appeared. Small, wet, impossible. The next morning, the photograph was gone. In its place was a new one. The same woman now stood just inside my bedroom doorway, still smiling that crooked smile. On the back, "I'm still here." I told myself it was a prank or exhaustion, but the apartment grew heavier. The air thickened, stale and suffocating. Shadows lingered longer than they should. Wet footprints appeared in the hallway. Once I heard sobbing from the closet. Inside, I found a hidden panel. Behind it were old photos, letters, and a child's drawing. A girl lying in a red puddle beneath the words, "Don't let her out." I packed that night. Before leaving, I checked my security footage. At 2:41 a.m., the closet door creaked open. A pale hand slid out, resting on the floor. Then a face, her face, watched me sleep for 11 minutes before retreating silently. I moved out and told the police. The case was cold. Last week, I received a letter with no return address. Inside was a photo of me, asleep in my new apartment. Behind me stood that same woman, still smiling. I was driving alone through Arizona on a stretch of highway between Winslow and Holbrook, 2 hours past midnight. No cars, no streetlights, just the desert and my headlights cutting through the darkness. That's when I saw the first road flare, flickering orange on the shoulder. Then another, and 6 more, spaced out like a trail of breadcrumbs. I slowed down, unsure if it was a warning or a sign of trouble. Suddenly, my radio crackled. I hadn't touched it. The volume jumped, static filling the speakers, followed by a high-pitched tone. It wasn't a station, it felt wrong, like a living thing crawling behind my ears. I switched it off. The static kept playing. At the 7th flare, I spotted a pickup truck parked sideways across the road. Its headlights were off, the hood was popped, doors open, no one in sight. As I inched closer, my engine sputtered, then died. Everything shut down, lights, power, phone. Total silence swallowed me. I sat frozen, hand trembling over the ignition, when a low hum started, not from the truck, from above. I looked up. No stars, no moon, only a dark, massive shape blotting out the sky, silent, shifting like ink in water. 3 dull lights glowed beneath it, like lifeless moons. I tried to move, but my body ignored me. My breath slowed. Then a blinding flash of white. When it faded, the truck was gone. The flares too, just me, stranded. Suddenly, my engine roared back to life. I didn't hesitate. I drove fast, heart pounding. At a diner in Holbrook, I ordered coffee, hands shaking. I asked the waitress if she knew about mile marker 117. She went pale. "You saw it?" she whispered. I nodded. She rolled up her sleeve. 3 circular scars marked her forearm. Same spot, 1989. I left town that night. Back home, the headaches started. The dreams followed, floating in black water, cold lights probing my teeth, ice crawling inside my skull. One morning, blood stained my pillow. A metallic taste filled my mouth. My nose was bleeding. A doctor found a small metallic object lodged in my sinus. When I asked to see it, they said it vanished before extraction. Now every night at 2:17 a.m., my radio turns on by itself. Static floods the speakers. Sometimes, beneath the static, I hear breathing. Not mine. Once I heard my own voice whispering through the static, "You're almost ready." I work as an audio engineer specializing in old police recordings, mostly for cold cases. I clean up distorted interviews, enhance background noise, and try to make sense of garbled voices on decades-old tapes. One morning, I arrived at the office to find a black cassette on my desk. No envelope, no case, just the words "Play Me Alone" written in red marker. I asked around. No one saw who left it. Curious, I digitized it and hit play. The voice was male, calm, detached. "This is my confession," he began. He spoke clearly, never rushed. He described his crimes with chilling detail, locations, methods, body positioning, no names, no dates. "The first one was a mistake," he said, "but I didn't regret it. That's how I knew it was real." The descriptions were horrifying. He referred to victims like objects. She had red hair, freckles. I kept her in the crawl space for 2 nights. She sang herself to sleep. I paused the recording unsettled. When I resumed, his tone had changed. "Now I want to talk to you." My skin prickled. "You work in a gray-walled room, no windows. You keep the blinds shut anyway. You're listening to this alone." My stomach dropped. "You've got headphones on. Left ear slightly damaged. You wear the same black hoodie most days. Coffee stain on the left sleeve." I pulled the headphones off. The voice continued, now on my speakers. "I've stood next to you, you didn't know. You dropped your keys, cursed quietly. I almost said hello." I backed toward the door. "You think this is a prank. You'll call someone. But first you'll listen, you always do." Then came 5 seconds of static. Then disturbingly, I heard my own voice. "Okay, I'll process this and send it off." It was something I'd said 2 nights ago while working late. I never recorded myself. The mic wasn't on. The security logs confirmed it. Still, there it was. The confession resumed. "You and I aren't so different. You process pain. You catalog it. But you don't feel it anymore." Then silence, a full minute. Finally, his voice returned. "Check the basement. Under the green tarp. Red shoes, still warm." I called the cops, gave them everything. They searched an abandoned property, a block from my building. They found her, exactly where he said. No ID, estimated time of death, 3 hours before I played the tape. The cassette? Blank when analyzed. No audio, no physical trace. 2 days later, I received an envelope with no return address. Inside, a USB drive. It contained a photo of me, sitting at my desk, headphones on. Behind me, blurry but visible, was a man in a black hoodie, still, watching. When I was in college, my friends and I got into urban exploration. Old hospitals, factories, train tunnels. The thrill was in the silence, the decay, the echoes of something left behind. One night, we decided to explore the abandoned Briarcliff Asylum. It had been closed since the late 80s. There were rumors, illegal lobotomies, patients locked in the basement, nurses vanishing. But we didn't care. We wanted adrenaline. We entered through a broken window on the east wing. The air was thick with mold and rot. Walls were stained with rust-colored streaks. Wheelchairs lay overturned in corners. Nature had begun reclaiming the building, vines creeping through the cracks. We split up. Stupid, I know. I took the west corridor, flashlight in hand, phone recording. Near the end of the hall, I found a door marked Stairwell, Sublevel 3. I hadn't read about any sublevels in the blueprints. The handle was rusted but gave way with a loud screech. A wave of cold air rushed up from below, wet and stale. I stepped onto the metal staircase. My boots echoed with each step as I descended. The first 2 levels were empty, storage rooms, broken carts, peeled tiles. Then I reached a 3rd landing. There were no lights, only darkness stretching downward. As I aimed my flashlight into the void, a voice echoed up. "Help, please." It was distant, fragile. I called out, nothing. I should have gone back, but I couldn't. Curiosity or something deeper pulled me on. The air got colder. I started seeing handprints along the wall, tiny ones, as if from children, pressed deep into the dust. Some smeared downward, as if being dragged. Then the flashlight flickered, then it died. I stood in total blackness, breathing fast. A faint shuffle echoed below, then giggling, childlike, but wrong. I turned, fumbling up the stairs when I heard it. Footsteps, fast, following. I sprinted. My hands grazed the railing, nails bending against rusted metal. When I reached the door, it slammed shut in my face, locked. I pounded, screamed. Behind me, a whisper, "Go back down." The door burst open. My friend Lucas was there, pale as death. "You were gone for an hour," he said. "We heard screaming through the vents." I hadn't screamed until the end. Back home, I checked my phone. The video was corrupted, except for 10 seconds at the end. It showed me walking down the stairs, alone. Then, behind me, something pale and long-limbed stepped into frame. It crawled fast, close behind me without a sound. Frame by frame, it got closer, until the last frame, where it was inches from my neck. Eyes black, smiling. I moved into a basement unit in an old house that had been converted into apartments. It was cheap, mostly quiet, and the neighbors kept to themselves. Only one other tenant lived there full-time, a man upstairs I never saw. I heard him, though. Floorboards creaked at all hours. Sometimes I'd wake at 3 a.m. to heavy pacing above me, like someone walking in circles over and over. I figured he had insomnia or anxiety. Then I started hearing dragging sounds. Long, slow drags across the floor, followed by soft thuds. I told myself it was furniture. Maybe he was redecorating. At 3 a.m., every night. One morning, a bad smell drifted into my unit, sharp, metallic. It reminded me of pennies soaked in bleach. I texted the landlord. He said he'd check it out. 2 days later, the smell got worse. I knocked on the upstairs door. No answer. That night, I woke to a sound like sawing, rhythmic, wet. I froze. The next morning, the smell was unbearable. I called the landlord again. This time, he came. When he opened the unit upstairs, he came right back down and told me to leave the house. Now. I stood across the street as police cars arrived. No one said anything for hours. Eventually, they brought out bags, black ones, multiple. The man upstairs had been dead for over a week. That made no sense. I heard him every night, walking, dragging, sawing. When they searched the apartment, they found something worse. A closet. Inside, photographs, dozens. All of them were of me, sleeping, eating, on the phone, brushing my teeth. Each photo was dated. Some were from days before I'd even moved in. One image showed me inside my current unit, asleep on the couch, with the front door still locked. Worse, in the corner of one photo was a man not the tenant upstairs. Someone else, someone I didn't know. The police said the upstairs tenant had been murdered, throat slit, blunt force trauma. Estimated time of death? Around the time I started hearing those dragging noises. They believed the killer stayed in the house, that he may have still been there when I knocked on the door. But here's what keeps me awake. 3 days later, I moved into a hotel. At check-in, the front desk clerk handed me a note. "Glad you're finally alone." It had no name, no room number, just a time. 3 a.m.,